Roxy, Very Berry, Leaf, and Twig have somehow managed to make it back to their yard to find things have totally changed. The rock band has been evicted and been replaced by social media influencers who have in turn proceeded to tear up the yard and replace it with a new artificial surface. Added to that, the few scragglers from the old yard have been driven completely into hiding thanks to the presence of the Beast, aka the influencer couple's newborn child. After trying to calculate whether or not the group has been catapulted into the future or has somehow died and moved on to the afterlife, a decaying leaf somehow managed to calculate the one formula to return them back to their old yard. Well, sort of. They just get catapulted into the yard next door, which it turns out is where the band is legally squatting. From there, things seemingly return to normal, with the group going back to encountering everyday things like vampires, juice drainers, death cults, and the like. The group is able to allow their overactive imaginations to put them on fantasy quests, giant mech battles with babies, and, well, even go into outer space. All of this sets the stage for the final adventures of the Mighty Ones. And yes, this is actually the final adventures in this case. The fourth season was the last. I did manage to look that up in just a amount of time, and they even sort of acknowledge it in the final episode a little bit. I'll maybe describe it at the end when we get further in. But yeah, this is seasons 3 and 4 of the Mighty Ones. I'm trying to condense this into one review as best as I can. Hopefully I do so. So yeah, basically there is actually something of a plot arc, especially in season 3, where they, like I said, very early on, they don't do the normal intro anymore. They just do kind of a Lost style intro because they're stranded in this artificial yard where they can't really eat anything, and there's this pool of underneath water that's things fall into, including their friend Lady Bug, not Ladybug. It turns out his name is actually Lady Bug. And so from there, Leaf starts to kind of lose grasp on insanity and starts trying to figure out some type of mathematical equation to get them back to their home, even though they're really not in their home anymore. But yeah, you get the idea. And so from there, that's where some of those adventures go for. Like I said, they have trouble eating things and finding water sometimes, so you see them start to wither and everything. And like I said before, they eventually do move over into the next yard, where again the band is illegally squatting and engages in something of a rivalry / friendship with the influencer couple next door. In particular, when the woman of the couple, Lindsay, basically gets sick of her husband Brent constantly failing at trying to be hip and cool, and just crashes over at the band's place for a few episodes. I mean, I'm not even joking. Like, she just basically walks out and moves in with the band. And, the baby just wanders between the 2 yards unsupervised. Like, yeah, this show really does not like millennials. I'll just say that. It is very, they're so self-centered they can't even raise a child right. Because like I said, the baby just wanders back and forth. With, at one point, Roxy even taking the child in as a pet in one of the episodes. And yeah, there's a lot of surprisingly adult humor in this. Like I said, I mentioned the vampire one, a juice drainer in this case, and there's stories of a juice drainer, and Barry encounters members of her family who have been drained of their juice, and she thinks it's Twig who's been doing it, but she thinks, well, if you get bitten by a juice drainer, you get turned into a juice drainer, and I want to do that. And so she tries to turn him into a Anne Rice Lestat-esque vampire in order for him to return the favor and turn her into a juice drainer. And that leads to a very awkward scene in public where it almost looks like they're having sex. Yeah, so there's a lot of that kind of humor in this thing too. And look, it kind of drifts over into season 4 a little bit. Season 4 is more sort of random adventures. Like, they do still have a bit more of a continuity in this. Like, they talk about the band, Kensington, one of the band members, really getting into true crime podcasts, and then streaming like TikTok videos and losing her phone in the middle of the yard, where the others find it and they believe it to be some type of like holy message from God. Again, the characters like the rabbit are here. Ben the stink bug's here. I'm trying to think what the other sort of big one was. And heck, at one point, Twig and Leaf actually meet their brother, an acorn who fell from the tree and has since fallen into a void and gone a little bit loopy to the point that he thinks his cap is its own sentient creature. So yeah, definitely a lot of dark humor in this one too. And they do seem to have they even break the fourth wall on a few occasions and acknowledge, like, yeah, didn't we already do this episode once before? Or, hey, doesn't this seem familiar to you? And even in the end, I guess I'll spoil a little bit of the ending. Basically what happens at the end is the band is trying to grow beans with some radioactive fertilizer that gets onto Barry and makes her head grow and grow and grow. She eventually starts floating away, and Roxy is determined to not leave her friend. So they construct a boat that sits on top of Barry's ever-expanding head as she floats out into space, and you see them all slowly aging and aging as they float through the cosmos. And then they sort of acknowledge, like, so I guess this is it. And they're like, well, yeah, we had a pretty decent run. And, you know, unless we get picked up for another set of adventures, I guess it's just off into the streaming void, and they go into a black hole. But, yeah, and like I said, in this case, yes, I've looked it up. The fourth season is the last, like I said. And that is pretty much how the series ends. But like I said, there's still a lot of fun in this. A lot of really good humor. I think they really actually did start to hit their stride in these third and fourth seasons. Like the first one, the first two seasons I thought could be hit and miss sometimes, where some ideas were good, but I don't think they made them feel like whole characters. They were just kind of archetypes. And this one, they're slowly expanding them out. You see personality changes. You see introspection sometimes. You even see how characters can change on a whim. And, you know, they even go into different directions. There's one where they do sort of, you know, they go into space in another episode where, you know, Twig has somehow managed to construct what he believes to be a bean flatulence-fueled rocket that will take them into outer space. And they're, like I said, Twig has, you know, when they're trapped in the neighboring yard, in their old yard, Twig, or Leaf, you know, he's trying to calculate things, and, you know, because he believes they're trapped in the future. Very, very, like, her family turns out is this death cult during the blooming season, and basically intends to invite her friends over so they can eat them, because, you know, they eat dirt, and what's dirt but, you know, leaves and twigs and pebbles that have all been slowly decaying into the ground. So, you know, things like that happen, and then there's, you know, I'm just trying to think of the best way to phrase it. But yeah, like I said, they get a little darker at times. They get it's still TV-Y7, but I think it's a little more adult in this case. They do sort of acknowledge the idea of things changing, and they're tackling some bigger subjects. Like I said, too, there's also a story where they go on like a, you know, role-playing fantasy adventure type thing where they're trying to help a crayfish from one of the band members' aquariums that has been catapulted out. They need to get it back to the aquarium, and they need to find a device to hold water because there's a bit of a drought going on. So, yeah, they want to get some water so they can, you know, live, especially the plant creatures. There's another one that's about societal acceptance and, you know, yeah, the idea that Twig thinks he's being bullied when really he's the one who's being the bully. Anyway, like I said, there's a funny adventure. Twig actually has some really good adventures in this. There's one where he inadvertently gets catapulted into a compost heap, where it's like a gladiatorial arena, and he winds up having to team up with a chicken nugget to make themselves buff and march their way through to earn their freedom. And then at just kind of the last second, he blows it by saying one of the guy's breath stinks. And it's like, oh, dude, that's too far. Get out of here and give us those muscles back. And so there's a little bit of, like I said, the idea that, you know, Twig does something and then it doesn't work out for him. And then there's another one where, again, it's Barry is invited to basically the equivalent of like a debutante ball. And Twig says, no, they're just setting you up to prank you because you're not a formal flower and everything. because he relates the story that he tried to enter and they kicked him out. And it's not that that it's later revealed that no, it wasn't because he was kicked out for being a twig. It was because he was kicked out because he was constantly saying things like, "Oh, you call that?" He was constantly like nitpicking them and fudging them and just criticizing their fashion. It's like, stop being mean. Like, yeah, he had completely misinterpreted the situation. So yeah, Twig and Very Berry definitely dominate the plots towards the end of this. I think one of the more surprising aspects, because the closest Leaf gets is he wants to find the perfect pair of pants so he could take his friends to this restaurant where they serve brunch. And that's his one and only real story in that one. And, well, no, there's another one where Roxy's moss is growing out of control in her head, and this couples with a sort of magnifying glass falling down and showing some microbes, and suddenly Leaf is transfixed by the microbes, turning them into a soap opera. And I mean, that's about the extent of Roxy's storylines in this. Like, there's one point she starts feeling abandoned by her friends, so she tries to get, some type of pet or something, and that's how she comes into. She actually briefly takes custody of the baby. So, yeah. I would say, overall, like I said, good animation throughout all of this. It definitely ends on, well, I don't know if a high note is the best term for it, but it definitely ends on a good, solid note. It definitely got a better, I think it's gotten a better treatment over, 4 seasons of 40 episodes. I think it got a better treatment than, say, Owl House or even Amphibia. Again, shows are probably a little bit better than that, but again, just got the short end of the stick in the streaming world. So, again, it seemed to have at least gotten some amount of respect. So, overall, I'm going to give seasons 3 and 4 of The Mighty Ones a B. Like I said, overall, fun, enjoyable. It doesn't take up a lot of time. And, did provide some very good and interesting character development throughout all of it. So, yeah. Again, like I said, the major drawbacks are just some plots felt a little rushed at times, and they just and there are a lot of non-endings. So, yeah, that's about the only real drawbacks to that. So, again, season gets a B. Season 3 and 4 get a B.
Presenting the adventures of Mighty Dog. Dogs everywhere are fed up with byproducts. Have no fear. Mighty Dog is here. Guardian of good taste, he brings the pure beef taste of Mighty Dog beef for dogs.
Make sure we're getting ready. Excuse me. Hey, Flacco, what's in the bag?
McDonald's new Mighty Wings.
Those look good. I'll play you for them.
For what, my wings?
First one to miss has to watch the other one eat.
Let's go. Left upright.
On one knee, off the scoreboard, through the uprights. Oh, man. Not again.
Cap, you trying to get my wings?
Nah, I'm right here.
What's that noise?
Okay, so first things first, yeah, I had intended to get this up a little bit sooner than usual. I thought I might get it up on Wednesday at the earliest. Unfortunately, my work schedule got a little wonky this week and threw a whole bunch of stuff kind of out of whack. So, yeah, just delayed everything off and put it to a weird angle. So, yeah, I had intended for this to at least get out in January, and instead it's getting out in February. Anyway, after that, I guess the next video is going to be the Super Bowl preview. Then it's going to be the random trade review on Luke Cage Noir. And we'll get back to proper movie reviews with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I think is it next week? Oh, I'll put it on right here. So yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And of course, I guess we'll have Animaniacs, the final season, coming up pretty soon too. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember you can request a movie or a television series for me to review at my Patreon at patreon.com/sleepytime for Cat Productions. Also, remember to like the video, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can be alerted to further videos.